Hey everyone, welcome. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, right here on this Tuesday, September 17th, right here in Lubbock, Texas. Lubbock, Texas, the mecca of health and wellness. That's where we are tonight at the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios. That is my office. This is my studio inside my office, and we come to you every night from 6 to 7. We have a radio show going on, 98.7 Walk by Faith, 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. All you guys out there streaming us on 987radio.com. And I know that you're out there, and I appreciate you being out there. And I hope that even though I can't see you or talk to you or ever hear from you, I hope you're doing good. And I hope this show is making your life healthier. And then, of course, we're on social media at the Rock Health and Wellness Centers, on YouTube at Health from the Rock, and on X at Jason Clemmons DC. So if you guys want to get us, you can have us. We're out there. We're bringing it to you every night from 6 to 7. And that's what we're going to do tonight. It's kind of it's going to be a chill show tonight. Because I think we need it. You know, one of the things that I've noticed about taking care of people is you see things in patterns. You see so many different people on a daily basis that you start to hear conversations in patterns, and these people don't know each other. They're just describing to you what's going on in their life. And today and yesterday, really, a combination of both of those, I just had lots of sentences about just being stressed out. like it was just over and over and over, just like chaotic stuff going on at home, just being overwhelmed with things, just wanting to quit, just wanting to cry. I had that same feeling myself, just being overwhelmed with a bunch of stuff, just having a bunch of things go on all at the same time, and it just like all the ends aren't meeting, and that gummit, they just were trying hard, and it's like just. And I just kind of had that feeling. Sometimes you get that feeling, and it's not a pity party. I mean, it could very well turn into a pity party, and then it won't take but a second. And then you feel like a victim, and if you do that, then you're in really bad shape. That's not a good idea at all. You want to compete. You want to compete every day, but sometimes it doesn't have to be quite as hard as we make it out to be. And sometimes it doesn't always go the way that we want it to go. And it can get overwhelming and it can get stressful. And so I heard several of those comments today. And I just thought to myself, I think we should just address that on the show tonight. We should just kind of all just take one big old breath and just kind of chill, just chill out just a little bit. And if you're not in any sort of stressful way, then good for you. Like, keep on rocking out there. But if you are in just kind of stressed out, like one of my ladies that I've taken care of for, I don't even know how many years, multiple years, I've taken care of her. Today, she told me today that she's prone to get migraines, and that she carries aspirin around in her purse because if she can get some caffeine and take an aspirin, then it solves her migraine problem. I'm pretty sure after 5-6 years of taking care of her, I don't know how long it's been, I'm pretty sure this is the first time she's ever mentioned migraines to me. This is the first time she ever mentioned it. She said she actually keeps a bottle of aspirin on her desk at work. And she works she works in a tax preparation office, which you might have to have that might actually be one of the scenarios by which you might actually have to have an aspirin. Like, okay, man, if you got to go get your taxes done and then find out what that's all about, I might give you some slack on that if you took an aspirin for after you got your tax return sent back to you. But then that's a joke. But she told me about those migraines, and I was like, I'm pretty sure you've never said a single thing about migraines. Maybe because she hasn't had them very often. Maybe because she hasn't had them when I'm around. And but we try to do a history and take care of all that stuff. I thought it was just kind of interesting. But and then right after that, next lady was she actually told me, she said, I just felt like crying. it was just it's just overwhelming, all the things, and she's got a lot of stuff going on, and it was just overwhelming to her. And I thought, that's the way I felt this morning, just kind of overwhelmed with some stuff. And so when it shows up in my world, when it shows up in patterns like that, there's two patterns that are going on right now that are common, that really have jumped out, and that's one of them. And the other one is this seasonal change really has my allergies all messed up, and that happened. That actually got told to me multiple times. I got multiple people right now dealing with colds, head colds, drainage, throat drainage, and and things like that. Allergies, lots of sneezing, lots of Kleenexes going on out there. And so it just really gets my attention when it becomes a global pattern. So I just want to really encourage all of us, if you're dealing with it, just kind of breathe in and breathe out. And you know what's really funny? What I did is I was on my way to Littlefield, and um, I looked at my phone for something, and I saw a picture of my brother-in-law, and um, I just saw his obituary, and I just looked at him. I just looked at his picture, and I just thought to myself, dadgummit, because you guys know that my brother-in-law passed away July 4th, and he's the guy that got me into chiropractic, and he's the guy that got me, changed my whole entire life and got me going with all this stuff. And he was the first person that ever said to me, um, when we were in fourth grade and there's 25 kids in our class and 15 kids got the flu and 10 kids didn't get the flu. You ever wondered why those 10 kids didn't get the flu? Never had wondered that before he asked me that. 29 years old, when he asked me that, never had wondered it one time. Never thought of it. Never even considered it. And then, but when he asked it, I had to consider it. I was like, all right, well, I don't know. Maybe they weren't exposed to the virus, right? And then he's like, really? In fourth grade, they weren't exposed to the virus? You ever seen those studies when COVID came through? They showed how a virus stays on your mail, and it stays on on a box that's set on your porch, and how it stays. And I went and researched all that stuff too. When everybody else in the world was researching it and talking about how that it really likes to stay on like door handles and sinks and all, and how they've done studies where they put like an ink type of stuff that's invisible that shows up under ultraviolet light or some type of deal, and how it'll spread around in no time. It'll be all over like a dinner party, and someone touches something, and then they touch their hand, or they shake hands or something, or they touch the door, the next person touches the door, then they touch their face, and then how that thing goes. It just spreads. And the thing about it is, it's been that way since the beginning of mankind. It's always spread that way. It's not all of a sudden it's new spreading that way. That's the way that the germs spread, right? So in fourth grade, are you kidding me? Do y'all remember fourth grade? I remember fourth grade. Miss Vetter was my teacher. Vetter. Vicky Vetter. Hope she's out there somewhere. I hope she's doing good. Love that lady. Love fourth grade. And me, Robbie, Bobby, and Chris, we were the little crew that we had going on, and started athletics in the school, played on the basketball team, wrestled in the fourth grade. I love fourth grade. But there's no chance that 10 kids didn't get the flu that year. There's no chance that they were not they were not exposed to the flu virus. There's no chance that happened back in the day. So why didn't they get the flu? And I'm not going to lose my train of thought on this and get all off track, but why didn't they get the flu? What was the deal? Why doesn't everybody have allergies right now? If that's the main thing that's kicking in, what's going on with allergies? And what Rick taught me was, that he said maybe it's an internal thing, not an external thing. And he wasn't really he was a he wasn't really a deep philosopher. I mean, he was a philosopher, um, and he read a lot and studied a lot, but he wasn't like it wasn't really more. It was a pretty serious question. Like you got 25 kids in a classroom, and 15 kids get the flu, and 10 kids don't get the flu. Why don't the 10 kids get the flu? And I thought about that and thought about that and thought about that. And finally he said to me, he's like, maybe there was something inside their system that kept them immune from the flu. Maybe they fought the flu off. Maybe they were stronger on the inside than they were on the outside. And so there's two trains of thought right there. I'll just follow this one for a second. Allergies are bothering some people, but allergies aren't bothering all people, and all the people are living inside the same environment. So if everybody's living inside the same environment, but the environment is not affecting some of the people, then I'm going to say that it's got to be one of those A and B and A and C and C and A, one of those deals. However that goes, where you cover it, where it's like if A equals B and B equals C, then C equals A, something, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe in this particular case, if everybody lives underneath the environment, and the people that have the allergies say it's the environment that's causing my allergies, maybe the people that have the allergies are having allergies for some other reason than the environment. Maybe it's not just the environment. Maybe it's something internal. Maybe it's something that we have inside our own selves. Maybe it's our own immune system. Maybe it's our own level of histamines or whatever. Maybe something that we're doing. Maybe we're eating too much. That's what, like, one of the things I talk about with kids with ear infections is too much dairy that causes this increased allergic response. And that's not some sort of conspiracy theory. That's a science. There's no question about that. And so maybe there's some internal things. Maybe there's too much refined carbohydrate, or maybe there's too much artificial sweetener or color. Maybe there's some sort of sugar problem, or maybe there's too much immune system deregulation, or maybe we have a gut microbiome problem, or there's a lot of things that we could be dealing with out there that would cause that. So that's a thought, and maybe we can come back to that in a minute. But that's not really what I was talking about. What I was talking about was I saw Rick's obituary, his picture, and I thought to him about some of the things, because some of the things were chiropractic related that I was thinking about that were a little bit overwhelming. So some of the things were chiropractic related. And I just saw his picture, and it just kind of re-inspired me. I just thought to myself, hey, look, just play the play today. Just play the play today. Don't worry about, don't give up hope. Don't quit. Don't throw in the towel. It just, if today it seems a little bit stressful out there, just hang on. Tie a knot in the end of the rope and just hang on for a day or two, because things change. My dad used to say that all the time. Things don't stay the same. They either get better or they get worse. Mostly it's because of what you do, not what you say. He added those as he went along, but he used to say that all the time. Things don't stay the same. If it's not fabulous today, then hang on. Just go to bed tonight, get up in the morning, go back to work, and just watch and see what happens. The same thing happened with Tech football this last 3 weeks. They started off the season and they scored a lot of points, but they won in 1 point in overtime. And the whole Texas Tech nation was freaking out over what was going on with the football team. Everybody was freaking out. They were up in uproar. And then we go to Washington State and we lose. And then you're just like, fire everybody, fire the coach, fire the quarterback, fire the whole thing, get rid of the athletic director, burn down the stadium, and just get rid of football altogether. Right? People just fussy. And then this week, we just played like we were supposed to play. We won the game like we were supposed to win the game. And now everybody's just like, well, I don't even know if it's real or whatever, but it's calmed down. And the point of it is, it just changes. Things change. If you're having a bad day, things change. So I'm just telling you, I want you to know that you're not alone when it comes to having a bad day this week, today. There's lots of people out there who are saying the same thing. So if we're all in this together and we're all saying the same thing, and there's more than one of us, there's a whole group of us out there that might be having, just being a little stressed for whatever reason. Maybe we're hitting some sort of hormonal change. Maybe we're hitting some sort of vitamin D change. Maybe we're hitting some like maybe the stars aren't lined up right, or something like that, right? Maybe, who knows what's happening? Just play, just play the next play, and then looking at that picture, getting inspired by just looking at my brother-in-law. It's like, dude, it was like chiropractic is one of the most amazing things in the universe as far as I'm concerned. It's super misunderstood. A lot of people out there do not understand it, but that doesn't mean it's not the most amazing thing in the universe. Just because a lot of people don't understand it, maybe that's my job. Maybe that's my job to try to help you understand it better so that you can see what I see when it comes to that. And that's kind of what I try to do every single day. Is that's what we do on the show, right? That's what we're trying to do. So let's do some of it. It was super funny. I got to give a shout out. I did something today on my way to Littlefield. Besides looking at that picture, I did something today that I've never done in my entire life, and I'm really surprised by this. But it was super cool. Like, you guys heard of REO Speedwagon, the group REO Speedwagon? You could send me a text if you were out there in Radio Land, 806-794-0400. If you ever heard of REO Speedwagon, just send me a text. Yep. Say yes, I've heard of REO Speedwagon. Yes. They've got a couple of cool songs, right? Uh, Take It On the Run. Oh, that's what I was listening to. I was listening to Take It On the Run. You guys know that song. I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to sing it for you. But today is the first day that I've ever listened to REO Speedwagon. Just turned on their Essentials album and actually listened to an album of REO Speedwagon. I've just heard a few of their songs, just like their main, their most famous songs that they have. Let me see if I can. You guys have heard of some of these. Keep On Loving You, Take It On the Run, I Can't Fight This Feeling Any Longer. Some of those like that. If you've never listened, if you're an 80s kind of dude, like if you've never listened to REO Speedwagon before, which I may just be new to the party. It's kind of like a lot of people come into wellness, It's like I'm kind of new. I've heard them my whole life, but because they started in the 60s, and I was a big fan of like the 70s back in the day. When I was a little kid, I was a big fan of rock stations and all that stuff. I used to listen to Kiss and do all that, back when I was a kid. And listen to that stuff, and Steve Miller Band, keep on, Time Keeps On Slipping, all those good old 70s stuff. I heard REO Speedwagon back in the day. I don't remember them, but I've never like taken the time to just go to their Essentials album and just start listening to it. And if you guys haven't ever listened to them, there's some good rockers, man. They're pretty dang good. Like, they just getting into they get into some of that good old the 70s and 80s just rock music. If you're into that stuff, I thought it was kind of fun to listen to them. That was kind of exciting. I'll probably listen to them again. Just kind of just if you're into it, kind of a Def Leppard, kind of Bon Jovi, kind of just kind of rock kind of group. And they were getting after it. Dude was shredding that guitar, and they got the piano involved and all that sort of thing. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was good. It was just chill out, listen to some music, and I thought they were great. But it was really interesting. Take It On the Run. If you listen to that song, REO Speedwagon, Take It On the Run. Take it on the run, baby, because that's the way you want it, baby. And then if that's the way you want it, baby, then I don't want you around, right? That's what he's telling her. I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another. You've been messing around. Like, first of all, it's gossip, right? But yeah, there's a lot of that. I heard it. I heard you got another boyfriend somewhere. You've been hanging out. You've been staying out late and all that. And he said, I understand. It comes from a tough neighborhood, and sometimes in a tough neighborhood, gossip tends to carry forward, and it turns into a giant, um, big giant mess, and the story just gets bigger and bigger as it goes. But I'm just telling you, like, hey, if that's the way you want it, baby, then I don't want you around. And then the second verse starts with these lines right here. You're thinking up your white lies. You're putting on your bedroom eyes. You say you're coming home, but you won't say when. And I thought to myself, if any of you guys watched last night's show or listened to last night's show, I thought to myself, wow, isn't that interesting? And I wanted to start thinking of all the songs that had something to do with lying. Because last night, when taking health to church, we talked about lying. And we talked about how one lie makes you kind of get yourself into a bit of another lie. And then you start having to scheme up to try to cover that lie. And then you don't really want to tell the truth, and you're afraid of the future and all that sort of thing. I just thought it was really funny. It's the first time I ever listened to, like, really broke down the words to that song. And then you're thinking up your white lies. You're going to tell me something, because I heard about this, that you might have a boyfriend out there. And then now what you're going to tell me is your little lie, and then you're putting on those little bedroom eyes like that. You're trying to, seduce me. And then, you say you're coming home, but you don't know when. Mm-hmm. Sounds to me like something's fishy. It's not that big a leap. It's not that big a leap from what we talked about last night with lying and then taking it on the run. And I started thinking about a bunch of George Strait songs and some good old country music songs that we're talking about. Maybe you're not telling me exactly some Garth Brooks stuff. I remember, maybe you're not telling me exactly the right stuff. So anyway, those are two things that I thought was funny today that I thought was kind of cool. If you guys aren't REO Speedwagon fans, go check them out. They're pretty cool. They're not paying for the show or anything. I'm not getting kickbacks from REO Speedwagon. Don't worry about that. It's just, if you like some good old rock music with some guitars and some pianos and all that, some drums and all that stuff in it, it's pretty cool stuff. All right, let's get to some serious stuff about health. So we talk about, last night we talked about the spirit. Sorry. Got a mosquito or something in here. Last night we talked about the spirit being the power of the flesh. And we got into it pretty deep because we were taking health to church last night, and we were really trying to break that down, and we were really trying to talk about that and say, hey, look, that's the way it works, right? So whenever we're studying anything else, one lady asked me, what kind of magnesium should I take today? Because there's lots of different types of magnesium. What is the proper form of magnesium that I should take? And so that's one question. One guy asked me about why his heel was hurting after ankle surgery. He had ankle surgery because he crushed a bone in his foot playing basketball. He had ankle surgery. Then they put a bunch of plates and screws or something in his ankle to stabilize everything. And then he went for a couple of years, and then they took all that stuff out. And now he's got a big giant scar on the inside of his ankle. He's got a big giant scar on the outside of his ankle. And he's got a scar right on the bottom of his heel right there. And he was having one kind of pain. Obviously, he broke his ankle. He was having that pain. So then they put the screws and plates in there, and then that created a different kind of pain, and that fused the subtalar joint together. And so now he doesn't have very much flexion extension in his foot. And so he's talking to me about, well, then that was causing pain because they had these screws and plates in there. So then they took all that stuff out, and now that pain doesn't hurt anymore, but I've got this pain on the bottom of my heel, that right on the heel pad, and it's killing me. And so I went back to my surgeon, and I told my surgeon, I was like, this is killing me right here. And the surgeon said, well, let's go about 6 more months or something, and then if you're still having this pain, then we can give you an injection or we can do surgery again. And I was like, okay. I was like, look, if you break your ankle, if you catch your house on fire, this is a great example. If you catch your house on fire, who are you going to call? You're going to call the fire department. The fire department's going to bring their axes and hoses to your house, and they're going to put your fire out. The very next day, after that fire department puts out the fire, who are you going to call to restore your house? You're going to call the fire department again? No. You're going to call your insurance agent. You're going to call the carpet guys. You're going to call your electrician. You're going to call some reconstruction guys. You're not going to call the fire department after they've already put the fire out to come back and rebuild your house. In the world of health, we sometimes do that. We go to our surgeon to fix our ankle when we crushed it, which is exactly what that surgeon's going to do. But when it comes to rebuilding our health, we don't go back to the surgeon, we go to the health people. And so that's what he came to me for, and that's what we started doing today. And when he left, he said, man, that feels way better. And I'm like, yeah, it feels better because we're trying to get the function right. And we're trying to get the function right because we understand the spirit is running the body. That's the point of it. Hey, let's take a break. We'll be right back. You guys stick around with us. Thanks for listening. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We'll be right back. I think at some level, whether it's too much or it's not too much, I think at some level, if we can understand that, like we could start to understand the function of our body. And when we get back from the break, I want the radio guys to hear this too. When we get back from the break, we'll start to see it. I want to talk about a couple of different things, but I want to just talk about the cell function, the muscle spindles in the muscles of the neck and in the low back. I just want to talk about that. And you're going to think, oh my gosh, that's going to be boring as heck. What is he going to talk about that for? Well, because then you can start to see how the spirit uses the flesh to run your body. Like, wait a minute. Okay. Now that you're saying that the spirit runs my flesh. Okay. So when your spirit runs your flesh and you have a symptom, one of the first things that you might do, and that's what I had to talk to this kid about with his heel, because he was getting really fussy about, he's like, man, I'm tired of this. I want this to be done. And he was kind of being fussy about his heel hurting. And I was like, dude, you should calm down just a little bit. Like, think about what's happening. What is the mechanism that's causing first of all, to create pain in your foot? That's what another person said. It's kind of amazing that we can even create pain. Yes, if you looked under a microscope at what pain is actually happening, you'd be amazed at all the things that are going on in order to create pain. Yeah, it's really an amazing situation. But I think we can learn from how nerves fire and tissues work and healing works and symptoms work, and we can start to reveal that spirit that's inside of our body. And if we start with the idea that we have that innate intelligence, man, it changes the way that we go about our day. And then we can take every one of these scientific places, take every one of these scientific things, and then we can say, and bring them right back down to innate intelligence. That's what we're going to do. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. Hope you guys are doing good tonight. This is a chill show. We're just chilling out. We're just taking it easy tonight. We're just making sure that we understand that there's a lot of things going on in the world today. There's a lot of things that'll stress us out, and we don't need to throw in the towel and give up. We just need to tie a knot in the rope, hang on, make it to tomorrow, and things are going to be better. So let's just all do that today. All right, let's talk about, because I was looking through some of these articles, and I came across this article. Muscle spindle distribution, morphology, and density in the longus colli and multifidus muscles of the cervical spine. I know. It's like, what did he just say? Yes, that's what I said. I said that so that you could hear it, right? And we're just gonna walk through it. We're gonna walk through it together. Muscle spindle distribution. What's a muscle spindle? A muscle spindle is a little group of nerves. Let me show you a picture of a muscle spindle so that you kind of have an idea. A muscle spindle is a group of nerves inside a muscle. It's where the nerve, one of the places that the nerve attaches to the muscle. It's right here in this. This would be a good little picture of it. But yeah, you got this nerve coming in. Your muscles don't move unless a nerve tells them to move. That's how a muscle moves. If you cut your bicep out and you just lay it on the table, the bicep's not going to do anything. You got to have a nerve firing to tell that muscle to contract. I mean, you can have a muscle cramp. You could have a dehydrated muscle that might do it. But it is from some sort of functional standpoint, if you want your muscles to move, you got to fire them through your nervous system, which means your brain has to tell your muscle, or a reflex, and I'll show you what a reflex looks like. But your brain has to tell the muscle, or you got to have a reflex arc that goes on. And so the muscle spindles are in the middle of the muscle belly, but it's the nerve attachment in the middle of the muscle belly. That's just what a muscle spindle is. Okay, that's what it is. So what does it mean? What is a muscle? Let's break it down. Muscle spindle distribution. Where are those muscle spindles? The morphology and density in the longus colli and multifidi muscles of the cervical spine. So you just got all these muscles in your neck. Okay, you got this SCM, and I'm not going to go through them, but you got a bunch of them in your neck. Okay, so there's muscle distribution, and what this article is going to talk about is it's going to talk about nothing if I don't get my glasses on straight. Yeah, let me move this over just a little. There we go. Tissue blocks comprising muscles and bones from C5 to C7. This comes from the spine. This comes from Spine 2002, 27, 694 to 701, April 1st, 2002. Spine. This is Spine's is quite a prestigious magazine. Okay. They're just talking about where the muscle spindles are in these muscles. Where does the nerve attach to the muscle? And why does it do that? And how many of these muscle spindles are actually attached to the muscle? And I'm not trying to get into it for all that. It was the objective was to determine muscle spindle distribution, morphology and density of these two muscles in caudal segments of the human cervical spine, and to assess whether changes are evident from infancy to old age. Does it change? First of all, where does the nerve come around and attach to the muscle? And does it change from young age to old age? That's what they wanted to know right there. So they just went in there and they just went through a bunch of stuff. And one of the things that was important that Dr. Murphy points out, one of the things that was important is no change in spindle distribution, morphology, or density were observed with age. You don't lose the density with age. You don't lose the nerve supply to the muscle with age. You're not going to lose it as you go old. You still have the same amount of nerves that are innervating your muscles when you're old as you do when you're young. So think about that. That's what I talk about. That's what I talk about when I talk about when we talk about like Botox injections. Remember when we talked about that just the other day was was Botox injections. And it's like we're just going to kill one end of the nerve. Well, okay, think about that for a second. Where is the other end of that nerve? This nerve right here is in the muscle belly. Any muscle, every single muscle. Just pick a muscle anywhere in your body. Go to the middle of that muscle. If you want to do your bicep, just go in the middle of that muscle somewhere and realize that you've got these little spindles. You got these nerves supplying to that muscle. It's how you flex. It's how you that's how you pick something up. That's how you contract your muscle. Is your brain tells your muscle to contract. But so the nerve is on one end and it's on the other end. What do you think a wrinkle is? Watch my face. Like how do you think you wrinkle up your face? Right? Like wrinkled. And so how does Botox work? Well, Botox works by injecting the toxin, the botulism toxin, into your face so that your nervous system can't function anymore. Just poison the nerve so that your muscles can't work. The skin won't work anymore. The muscles won't work anymore. We'll just paralyze them. Right? Well, I'm not trying to get into Botox tonight because this is a chill show. But the point of that is that there's two ends to that nerve. And what I'm trying to show you is that, wow, there's actually nerve supply from my brain to my muscles. There's nerve supply there. Okay. So what, Jason? What is that? What is that? What difference does that make? All right. Well, let's just talk about it a little bit more. What difference does it make? The current study examined spindle characteristics for intrinsic muscle spindles pairs whose coactivation contributes to segmental stability of the cervical spine. Now we're talking about each segment of the spine and how it contributes to stability in the neck, because there's some alpha motor neurons and some gamma motor neurons, and there's some the way that the muscle contracts and the way that the muscle stays tight. That's what the gamma motor neuron basically does. It keeps the slack out of it so that you're ready to go whenever you need to, instead of being really loose and having to just like pull the muscle tight. It's kind of what goes on right there. It is also of interest that the spindle characteristics remain unchanged in these intrinsic muscles whose underlying segments are subject to age-related osteoligamentous changes. So you're going to lose, as you get older, you're going to lose the disc and you're going to get bone spurs. Those are things that are going to happen, but you're not going to lose that nerve supply. You know, when you try to get this thing going, it causes problems. You're not going to lose that nerve supply over a period of time. So they went in through there, but they also got into the psoas and the multifidi, the cervical spine lordotic antagonist muscle pair that provides segmental stability and neural posture. Nah, that's not what I wanted to talk to you about. But we get down here. Muscle afferents from both lumbar and cervical regions terminate in the intermediate zone of the spinal cord. Important, because this is where the intermediate lateral column of the sympathetic nervous system lies. Lumbosacral afferent endings routinely form monosynaptic connections with motor neurons. Afferent meaning going towards the brain. Upper cervical endings also project to the inferior olive and cerebellum. Upper cervical endings, upper cervical nerve supply also fires into the different parts of your brain and your cerebellum. That was very important. That's that connection that we're talking about. It's like, why are you adjusting my neck to change my balance? What I don't get. What is this adjustment thing that you guys do? How does it work? Remember my new patient that asked me that yesterday? How does it work? Well, there's nerves that are connected. Your nerves are connected in your spinal cord. Your spinal cord is connected to your brain. Your brain is connected back down through your spinal cord to the muscles. This whole thing is going back and forth and back and forth, and and you can kind of see it in this little picture. This is a picture of a Golgi tendon. This is another one of those receptors. So you got the muscle spindles in the middle of the muscle belly, but you have another set of receptors where the muscle turns into tendon. That's the Golgi tendon organs. But look what happens. It fires into the spinal cord. And then it fires not only if you hit it, that's when you get that stretch when you do the reflexes, right? You tap your patellar tendon and you hit that. Your doctor's done that before. Check your reflexes, hit that tendon, bam, hit that tendon, fire through the spinal cord. The spinal cord goes to the motor neuron, and then it's like bam, all of a sudden the muscle contracts. We got some sort of muscle contraction thing going on, and we've got a muscle that goes to the other side, the antagonist muscle, that turns it off. You guys remember us talking about that. If you want to make your hamstring calm down a little bit, one of the ways that you could do that is you could fire your quads. I drew that same thing right there just so we could kind of talk about it. But here's the muscle belly. Your muscle is innervated, and then the muscle tissue turns into tendon tissue right here. This is a tendon, and it's the tendon that attaches to the bone. And there's another, that's called the enthesis, and there's another set of receptors there. But you can see right here that these little round circles, which are called Golgi tendon organs, if you stretch them, they will become oval shaped. And then when they become oval shaped, then they fire into the spinal cord. The point of the conversation tonight is the muscle fires into the spinal cord. And then the spinal cord is you've also got inhibitory. You ever seen anybody or have you guys ever experienced it to where, I don't know what's going on with my system tonight, but it keeps wanting to jack around with me. Have you guys ever seen it to where, have you ever wondered, probably haven't, when your doctor hits you on the knee, when he's checking your reflexes, and he hits you on the knee, your foot kind of pops up, right? Have you ever wondered why it doesn't just keep popping up? Like, what is it that stops that loop? Because once the loop fires, and then the muscle fires, and then the loop fires, and the muscle fires, because that happens sometimes, and it may be happening to you. You may have a doctor hit you in the knee check your reflexes, hit that tendon in your knee, and your foot goes boom, 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 and it just keeps going. That's a problem, and that's a brain problem, because what you're losing right there is the inhibitory factor of the brain onto this what's called an interneuron. So you got this little interneuron right here, and I'll blow it up for you so you can see it a little bit better. So when this nerve, when this Golgi tendon stretches, it fires this nerve coming into the spinal cord, and then in the spinal cord, there's an interneuron. It's like a connector. It's like a little connector between the input nerve and the output nerve. And the output nerve is represented in green right here. So the output nerve is going to come back to the muscle, and it's going to tell the muscle to contract. When at the same exact time, this loop is going to the agonist muscle, and it's going to tell the muscle to relax. So my bicep contracts, my tricep relaxes. Those two things work together. And that's happening in my spinal cord. Well, on a reflex, you've got input into the spinal cord and output into the nerve that is quicker than the brain itself. Because God was like, look, I need you to be able to move that off of there. Like, you touch a hot stove, ow. Like, you're gonna jerk your hand off that hot stove before your brain even can process it and then send the signal back to make your muscle get off of that hot stove. Like it's just reflexive. It's just like, whoa, that was quick. It's just going to make me just really quickly do that. Well, then the signal gets sent up to the brain, and then there's an inhibitory neuron that comes back onto that inner neuron right there from the brain itself. So you got another right there on that inhibitory neuron. You've got in the inner neuron, you got an inhibitory neuron coming down from the brain. I'm just going to bring it down here and just say, all right, stop. So the first one gets through. You hit somebody on the knee, their foot goes out. The first one gets through, but before that second one even can start, the brain has processed the information and sent it back down to the inner neuron and said, turn off. Nope, stop. Don't do that. One time I was checking reflexes, and I tapped a lady on her right knee, and her left knee went, her left foot kicked. That's a bad deal. That's not good. That's not supposed to happen. There's definitely interference in the system when that happens right there. Okay, so what is the point of all this? You're trying to get into neuroanatomy and physiology? No, I'm not trying to get into neuroanatomy and physiology. I'm trying to talk about how the spirit runs the flesh. The spirit is working through all this. Your innate intelligence is working through all this. It's like, how does this work? Well, it works because the spirit is running your body. Because as soon as you die and I hit you on that tendon, you still have a nerve from the Golgi tendon into the spinal cord. You still have a nerve that goes from the inner neuron. You still have a nerve that goes to the alpha motor neuron that's firing into the muscle. You still have all of that system that's working together, but all of a sudden you don't work. I don't know for sure if you hit a dead person, what happens. If it may cause you to just go and that foot just keep going like that. Just, I don't know, as long as there's muscle energy, I don't know what would happen. But eventually you're going to get to the point where you can hit the hammer on that knee and nothing happens. Nothing happens because there's no spirit left to run the body. The body's out of energy. Like it just is done, right? And when we study this stuff, it's so fascinating to me because when you study it, you just learn. So I never have been able to understand the concept of what the heck of separation between science and religion. Like I don't get it. I never have gotten it. Because I keep figuring out what science exists without the intelligence of God. In my own personal life, I can't figure that out. So it's like, science and religion is separate. Science and God is separate. No, science and God's not separate because God's the one that made science. So you guys are looking at it from a filter that it's two separate things, and I'm looking at it from a filter that it's made by one creator. And so when I'm looking at it, I kind of believe that that it's that it's just it's kind of it gives me an insight into how the creation worked, how the creator did what he did, right? When we study it more. So here's another one. Here's another one right here. And this one's pretty cool too. And I want you to see what happens down the road when you start to interfere with the nervous system. When you start to interfere with your body and it really is a change right here. This is the patho-anatomical changes of the brachial plexus and the C5-6 and C5-6 following whiplash injury or type injury, a case report. This is from the Journal of Whiplash and Related Disorders, Volume 1, Number 1, 2002. This is it's an abstract, the study and method. Persistent neck pain and bizarre cranial symptoms are common sequelae of whiplash. What happens after whiplash injuries? Since soft tissue injuries of the neck are rarely fatal, only few pathoanatomical studies of such injuries have been conducted. We report on a man who has been extensively investigated after a whiplash injury sustained in a traffic accident. He died at the age of 42 of a heart attack 12 years after the injury. The cervical spine was examined in great detail, and the brachial plexus were examined microscopically. There were marked isolated degenerative changes in the C5, C6 segment, such as disc degeneration and all kinds of different things I'm not going to get into, including degeneration of the meniscoid folds. Contralateral to the C5, C6 changes are and consistent with symptoms and clinical signs were the marked fibrotic perineural adherences in the brachial plexus. What does that mean? There were marked welds, fibrotic adherences, like soft tissue nerve changes, soft tissue nerve changes going around the brachial plexus. The brachial plexus that runs your arm, that comes off your neck. From you get from C5 to T1, you got this whole set of nerve roots coming off your arm. And what happened is this guy got a whiplash 12 years ago. 12 years ago, he got a whiplash right there. And he ends up 12 years later dying from a heart attack. And when they studied his neck, what they found out was those nerve fibers had been entrapped. They'd been like hot glued to the fibers, the soft tissue fibers that were around his neck in the brachial plexus. Like he had nerve changes after he had a whiplash. He had a whiplash injury, which changed the soft tissue around the nerves, which caused the nerves to start to interfere with the way that the brain was trying to communicate with the body, which ended up having all kinds of different problems. Conclusions. The finding might explain the development of chronic symptoms. A considerable portion of soft tissue injuries of the neck entail long-standing and disabling symptoms. The hypothesized source of such symptoms include disc injuries, segmental dysfunction, injuries with all the different joints, thoracic outlet syndrome due to scarring within and without of the brachial plexus. Here's another case report. A 30-year-old male sustained a whiplash injury in a traffic accident. His initial symptoms were neck stiffness and pain. How many of you ever had that? How many whiplash injuries did I have in my time as a football player? How many times have you had a whiplash injury? How many someone just hit you from the back or you popped your head around or something like that, right? All initial and subsequent radiograms of the cervical spine were normal. He went to the doctor. Doctor took an x-ray of his neck. Doctor said, it's normal. Everything seems to be normal. Treatment with physiotherapy, rehabilitation did not help. He still was stiff. It still didn't work. 10 years after the injury, at age 40, he was disabled with what's called segmental dysfunction of the cervical spine. He was disabled from the subluxation. He had created interference in his nervous system because of the unaddressed injury that he had somewhere along the way. His complaints were continuous neck pain radiating into the left arm, weakness of the left arm, numbness and poor circulation of the left hand, migrainous attacks of headaches, vertigo, and fainting. Vertigo and fainting because of a whiplash in the neck. Why? Well, what did we just talk about earlier? That there are nerve fibers that fire from the upper cervical muscles in the neck into the cerebellum. Well, there's also connections into the vestibular system, and there's connections with the vestibular system into the neck. And it's like, it's not just a neck ache. It's not just a crick in your neck. How many little micro whiplashes do little kids get when they start walking? When they roll over and then they fall off the bed and then someone picks them up and throws them up in the air and then grabs them by the arm, jerks them up off the ground. and then they get a tricycle, and then they crash the tricycle into something, and then they get a bicycle, and then they crash the bicycle into something. And how many little micro traumas are going on in that little spine? And it's like, oh, my kids don't need to get adjusted. Are you kidding me? I'm telling you right now that how many times have you done? Yeah, my neck's just a little stiff. Dude, your neck being a little stiff is a problem. You're not supposed to have your neck being a little stiff. What I'm trying to share with you, and I'll get into this same thing tomorrow because we're at the end of the show. But what I'm trying to share with you right here is that the way that your nervous system functions and the way that your spine functions are related to each other. And that's all interfering with your innate intelligence through what we call the subluxation. It's taking your light away. That's what it's doing. So we'll get into it tomorrow. We got to take a break. This is the end of the show. I hope you guys have a great night. I hope you just take a breath. If you're having a stressful day, just remember you're not alone. There's a lot of people out there that's kind of having a stressful day. Maybe the stars aren't lined up. And so just hang on. We're going to do better tomorrow. We're just going to keep after it. And we're just going to see how this whole thing works out. So guys, have a great night. If I can help you with anything, please let me know. And otherwise, we'll talk to you tomorrow night at 6 o'clock on Life with Jason Clemmons, DC.